When people talk about the biggest roster moves in the history of Counter-Strike, a few come to mind. Nico going to FaZe, originally from Mouse Sports. You have m0NESY going to Falcons as a more contemporary example. However, one roster move rises above the rest. A roster move so seismic in the way it will shift the scene that we will be feeling its effects for years to come. Astralis, the organization who built the greatest lineup in the history of Counter-Strike. 4 major wins defining an era of dominance that we have not seen since. Unfortunately, since that era closed, Astralis have hit rock bottom, failing to make their 5th consecutive major following their disappointment in the recent MRQs. With an aging device, a struggling core of star players, and a team lacking identity, what could be next to pull Astralis out of the doldrums? There was but one man fit for the job. A Chad, some might say. It's time for Hooxi. That's right, the era of the Giga Chad is here. Hooxi is on loan to Astralis. Cadian is on the bench. Let's talk about it. And if you guys enjoy this breaking Counter-Strike news on my channel, make sure you do me a solid and subscribe. Help me reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and it helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you leave a like and leave a comment as well. And lastly, before we get started, let's go ahead and thank today's sponsor. That's right, this video is sponsored by Skin Club. They're one of the most popular case opening sites in the scene with over 100 custom cases backed by their provably fair system. You can open cases individually or wager your winnings against other users in case battles, either with players around the world or privately with bots if you want to avoid being smurfed outside of Premiere as well. But wait, there's more. Skin Club runs monthly events with free rewards to earn, free daily cases, and if you don't like what you earned, you can always go for a cheeky little upgrade to get something you do. If you want to play on Skin Club, you can do so at the top link in the description down below and get a 7% deposit bonus when you top off your account with credit card, crypto, or the 5,000 P250 sand dunes in your inventory. Please gamble responsibly and only do so if you are over 18 and live in a country or jurisdiction that doesn't restrict gambling. Gambling can be an addiction, and you should never gamble for the purposes of making profit. Only wager what you are comfortable losing. If you or a loved one are suffering from gambling addiction in the US or Canada, you can reach out to 1-800-GAMBLER toll-free to get help. I want you to be safe and healthy always, so seek help if you need it. And thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. There's actually quite a lot going on with this move, and we're going to break it down into a few pieces, but let's start with how we got here. Obviously, Cadian's tenure with Astralis has more or less been a disaster. Outside of making the playoffs at Cluj, I can't really think of anything else this roster has accomplished other than making me laugh. I think, in fairness to Cadian, not all of that can be strictly blamed on the calling. In fact, I think most people, unless you're trying to dunk, would admit that Astralis honestly had a good strategic level. What they more so suffered from was extreme inconsistency and a lack of confidence. And after bombing out of the MRQs, it was very clear that some changes would have to come down the pipeline for this roster to kind of salvage itself going into next season. And unfortunately, I think that left Cadian in a position where he was going to be the first person cut more or less no matter what. Because at the end of the day, while he's certainly not a bad in-game leader, he is not fit for this lineup. At the end of the day, he will always be an opping IGL. He is not going to be good enough even for the IGL's expected level on the rifles. He's poor in other mechanical areas like with his MP9, so wanting to replace him for someone who could be potentially better tactically, but also more comfortable in the rifling role makes a lot of sense. And lastly, before we start talking about the move and what this means for Astralis, I want to stress that Cadian can easily go to another lineup. He is not done offering his value to Counter-Strike. He will be sought after for other projects. I think he can do well in an environment that better suits him, especially with younger, less proven players like he did with Heroic originally. I think he's great at taking young talent and bringing them up to the tier 1 level, but I do think that he is capped out in such a way that it's hard to expect him to lead championship caliber rosters. So if you're Astralis and you're looking to make that change, who do you seek out that's also Danish? Obviously, Snappy would be at the forefront of that list, but he's currently locked up. He's probably going to be hard to acquire. Are there any other options? And of course there is. He's always been there. The threat lurking in the shadows. Hooxi, the Giga Chad. Astralis are bringing Hooxi out of the Shadow Realms and onto the roster on a loan through PGL Astana. Now, it makes sense to not permanently sign Hooxi right away, because the last time he played an official match was all the way back in the Blast Premier Spring Finals when he last played with G2. So it's been almost a year since Hooxi has played at the tier 1 level, you don't know what could have gone on in that time. He hasn't had a whole lot of time to prove himself since then. So with the fact that you're not playing in the major, PGL Astana, I believe, is the last event of this season that Astralis will be attending. They bring him in, see what the vibe could be like, and then they don't have to commit to Hooxi if they don't like it, and they can shop around for a different IGL in the offseason. In a lot of ways, this feels like a win-win situation for Astralis, because they take care of kind of their biggest problem, which is the fact that Cadian doesn't fit their vision. They get a Danish IGL in the interim, and they don't have to commit to a year, 7, 8 months, whatever it has to be, of Hooxi if they don't like the vibe. For Astralis, this makes total sense. For Hooxi, it makes total sense. I really do like this move on the face of it. Before we even get into the mechanical side of how Hooxi fits into the system, I don't really see how there's a downside for Astralis other than the fact that you don't know what Hooxi could be like. In terms of fit, I actually think Hooxi fits what Astralis wants to do very well. I think on their T side specifically, he's going to give them a dynamic that they otherwise wouldn't really have. And that's that Hooxi's style of calling is he is the self-sacrificing entry kind of in-game leader. He will push anywhere he needs to go to set up his stars for success. When you consider that Stown and Yabby specifically have struggled routinely with this roster, I think putting a rifler in front of them that can just be a bullet sponge, someone's going to flash and enable them entirely, makes a lot of sense. Hooxi will be ruthlessly aggressive and will run it down to the ends of the earth just to give Stown and Yabby an opportunity to click heads. So I think Hooxi can actually give them a very fresh T-side direction and hopefully get Stown and Yabby more invigorated and added into the offensive picture. The reality is that Astralis aren't that far off from being a competitive roster. Device is, well, not himself, not prime Device, but he's by no means washed up. He's still a competitive and great opper in his own right. Stown and Yabby on paper can still be incredible top 30, top 20 caliber players. They just haven't shown it yet in this lineup. And then Stair has been backpacking this team, playing all the support roles, all the anchor spots, all the places nobody else wants to play, and he does it to a plum. If we could just get a new strat book in front of Stown and Yabby and get them back to their heroic form or something close, then Astralis will instantaneously be far better than they have been. And keep in mind that with this old lineup, they still had good performances like making it to the playoffs at Cluj. It's not out of the realms of possibility for them to vault up the rankings under a new system that's just better for what they have. So if you just want the short 10-second TikTok blurb, yeah, this is a good move. You're lowering them for one event. You're moving away from Cadian. I don't see how this is not just a objective step in the right direction for Astralis. Now, I'm quickly going to cut myself off here because I am me from the future after I did an entire 3-minute spiel that was mostly wrong. I was also going to talk about Kasper Straube stepping down as the sports director for Astralis, as I felt that was actually way more important than Cadian stepping away. And this comes from the fact that in the past, the sports director for Astralis was notorious for many infamous decisions in this organization that have gone wrong. And that's because I got him confused with the previous sports director, who was also named Kasper. Kasper Hvitt, who, if you were at all familiar with Richard Lewis's content, should be a name set in infamy, but because every Danish person is named Kasper, I got them confused. Kasper Straube is the guy who came in from Heroic in 2023. Also, I do think him leaving is still very important because under his leadership in these last year and a half or so, Astralis has done fuck all, made a bunch of really weird decisions. It makes sense that he has to get canned too, but he is not literally the specter of evil over his organization that Kasper Hvitt was. Just thought I'd throw that in there as a little accountability thing. This is what happens sometimes when you don't overly script your videos. Anyways, I think the biggest takeaway, myself being stupid aside, is that this might be potentially a new direction for Astralis, and they sorely need it. This is one of the most successful, important organizations in the history of Counter-Strike, and no one wants to see them be bad when so many of their players still have a lot left to offer. So hopefully, even if Hooxi is only going to Giga Chad for a little bit, we will Giga Chad into a new direction together. That's all I got. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Help me reach 10K by the end of the year. It helps out immensely. Thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. Check the top link in the description. Get 7% to put a pause about so next time you fill up. Please gamble safely and responsibly. Thank you to Skin Club. Shout out to my channel members: Justin, Jesse, Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1, Cody Foxworthy, Justin Vegt, I'm Flashbang, Snowy White, Rowdy, Vergil'sPlasticChair, and Sid Pro 12. If you want to become a channel member, you can do so. Link in the description down below for so you can name it just like this, as well as a roller community Discord. All me on Twitch.tv/LionHeartZ CS2. Bleh.